We've got quite a few making their way to us. Once they all arrive, we'll have them introduce themselves. All right. I'll move down here. Here's what we want to do. We're going to start at this end. So let's pass a mic down here real quick. And I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself, what film you worked on, and what your role was on the film.
Hi, I'm Steve Murs. I worked on BREW STORY. I was doing sound and lighting, and yeah, he's Joe.
I'm Joe Quinn, and I was in BREW STORY.
I'm Jake Barcus. I was the director, writer, editor, and star in BREW STORY.
I'm Ian Moore, and I was the director of photography for BREW STORY.
Olivia Jude. I produced and I acted in Blue Bison.
Hey, Camrus Johnson, director, writer, and star of Blue Bison.
Hey, I'm Nik, writer, producer of Why Don't You Like Me?
Hello, my name is Miguel Brown. I was a barista in BREW STORY.
My name is Dilan Farrell. I was the composer and editor for Black Box.
My name's Nicole Sofia, and I was the writer and director of Black Box.
I'm John Gigrich. I pretty much did the things that were not acting or practical effects makeup on Haunting the Haunted.
All right, before I open it up to the audience, let's work the opposite direction. And I will ask each of you to let us know either what was the inspiration led to the making of the film or how you came to be involved in your project.
Oh, wow, this is a funny one. Hard to believe, but Haunting the Haunted was a low-light camera test, and I'm not kidding. I just had a camera, wanted to do something in low light, thought why not make a movie? Got a few actors I knew, thought I'd put absurd things in it. You know, I really wanted somebody to say puke and rally. That meant somebody had to puke. Why do they have to puke? I don't know, evisceration. And it just kept going. And the Haunted Basement is a group in Minneapolis that was looking for people to use their space in the off season. So I rented that space and we just ran around and made a movie.
So I needed a grade for my final year of film school. Well, I watched a lot of Ex Machina when I was in quarantine, and that definitely inspired me to write and direct the film. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I took a lot of inspiration for the composition from a lot of video game soundtracks like Celeste, but also my mom raised me on a bunch of 80s synth music, so Tears for Fears definitely helped with that.
So I was asked to work on BREW STORY from Taco Truck and Jake over there. I've worked on several projects with Jake and his crew, and I just do it because I love working with those guys, and you know, who knows, might pop something off.
So Why Don't You Like Me was a AFI thesis project, and it was just, you know, me sitting at the back of an Uber thinking, what would happen if, you know, I gave someone a really bad rating who really cared about ratings and where it could go. That's about it.
My answer's kind of dark, so sorry in advance. But so basically, rape became a very real thing in my life suddenly. I feel like when you hear things like bombing and war and murder and rape, it's something that happens to unfortunate people somewhere in the world. But one year, in 1 week, one friend told me that a friend that I knew was raped by somebody else that we knew, and that we couldn't say anything. And the same week, a very close friend of mine told me that she was attempted to be raped at a wedding, and the cops couldn't do anything. So in both scenarios, I was like, oh, interesting. I can't do anything. But in one, I do know the guy that did it. So I called my mom, who was here, and I said, Mom, I know a rapist, can I go beat him up? And she was like, is he white? And I said, yeah. She's like, no. And so there was nothing I could do in either situation. So the only thing I could think of is, well, when something bad happens and the cops can't do anything and civilians can't do anything, who could do something? And I thought, well, obviously Batman, but what would Batman look like in the real world? it would be someone very unassuming, very young, but a bunch of them. It would be a bunch of young teenagers that would collectively equal one big animal, like a bison, blue bison.
So I met Camrus at a party, and I'm an actor, and I decided that I'd use my skills to get a role, and I was like, hey, if you let me produce this, I'll act in it. So that's what I did, and I'm really thankful.
You also said if you got to act in it, then you could also bring the editor.
Oh, yeah.
And the assistant editor, and also the director of the Kickstarter. So she brought a whole bunch of dope stuff. So the film would not have been what it is without Olivia.
Thanks, Cam.
So our project was based on a true story. Me and this guy right here were driving home from a shoot in Alabama, and we were driving through the night, and he needed a cup of coffee. We drove to a Starbucks drive-through, and they weren't really budging. You could tell the guy wanted to work with us, but was just like, there's nothing we can do. He was begging them. The only thing that we slightly changed was nobody got peed on. That was, liberties on our end, but we just drove away from that situation. We started joking like, okay, what would you have been willing to do for that cup of coffee? And somehow we landed on this. We just started laughing so hard, and we're like, we got to make this. So that's the...
And on the flip end of that, I actually worked in restaurants for a long time and was a general manager and had to frequently turn people away when we were like, just lock the door. We got 2 minutes left. Technically, we're still open, but like, come on, there's 5 minutes left. The oven is off, and people will come in and beg. And so, what actually attracted me was when Jake sent me the script, the barista's monologue about every night people come in here and they think they're so special, and I have seen so many of those people, so I got to be that guy, which was fun.
Yeah, Jake just has me on. We worked on a lot of projects together, so just happy to help out. So, yeah.
Let's go out to you. Let's get some hands from the audience. Yes, right here.
Okay, so my question is for Blue Bison, specifically about the reveal of when he was admitting to the rape and the story there. I wanted to know a little bit more about the inspiration behind that, because especially now that you said too about like how you had personal experience with it, and so like my assumption would be just like how surprising and like world changing that moment was for you.
Right.
But like what was the backstory about behind choosing that way to reveal that moment?
It's a great question. For those that couldn't hear it, basically the question, I looked at, there's no one up. Oh, there's two people. Hey, if you couldn't hear it, the question down here. Three, hello, third, fourth, fifth. The question was why the moment, why reveal the rape the way that I did, basically. Is that right? So there's a couple reasons. One was because when that week happened to me, it really did come out of nowhere. And I wanted to feel that in the room, where when the word rape is dropped, you feel like that, oh, it's real now. Suddenly we all know someone that did it. So I wanted partially that, but also I think it was really interesting to bring someone that was sort of unassuming and seemed like a good guy, and we kind of know what he did. He was like a drunk driver that had his kids in the car. That was like a whatever offense. So the point of the Blue Bison is that they take bad guys off the street and fix them. They make them good people, but since they're sort of new to this and they're young, they don't get like the worst people in the world, just like somewhat bad. So the point of the rape was that we wanted to see how heavy this thing that he did really was, so that we could actually see what it would be like if the Blue Bison existed and something bad happened to the point where it doesn't make sense for us to actually release this person. Because usually it's something that we'll beat them up and we release them, but we're not releasing a murderer or a rapist. So when a rapist is in the room, it's like, do we put him back on the street, or do we kill him this time? Because this is new for us. So we wanted to add something that made it feel bigger than it already is. Thank you.
Who's next? I can ask questions, but we'd rather hear from you. All right, I've got one for everyone. Sort of an open question. Pick from these. Either something you took out of the film, which happens a lot when you're editing down a short film, or some interesting backstory from your film that people wouldn't know just by watching it.
Well, there was a couple of things that well, obviously it was based on a true story, roughly. We tweaked a couple things. But there was a couple things we shot that we didn't leave in the film. Like there was a scene that I wanted to incorporate at the end that didn't make the cut. I'm still hoping to put it in there, but basically after we see Joe sip the nitro brew, we come back to the coffee shop and we see my character and the other two baristas, and we're just like cheersing each other, having a great time. I'm covered, I'm drenched in water, and then someone else, actually our script supervisor Josh Lawhorn, walks in the door and is like, I would do anything for a cup of coffee. And then I left it to the other two baristas. I was like, it's your turn to take this one. So, yeah, that's something we left out of the film.
All I'll add is I know I'm not the only one. We've all been there when it comes to getting a cup of coffee, and I guess it turned out the way it did for Joe.
So I guess something I took out of it was, going into it, I was very inexperienced. I had like I had like no experience with producing actually like a film. I was working at an agency. So now I'm doing my own stuff. So I wrote my own short film. We're in pre-production for that now. I'm going to be acting in it, and I'm also producing it. So, it really gave me the confidence to keep making more stuff. And there were just so many things I learned on set, and I had so much fun. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now.
She's a star. So one thing, I'll have a little story. So basically the whole young cast were all friends of mine over the years. So that was easy. The one thing that I could not find was Jeff, the bad guy. He's not a good guy, bad guy, the rapist. So it took me, literally we tried to shoot this film for years, and I could not find the guy to play this guy. Because basically I was like, we have no money. We shoot the whole film in one weekend, and you need to be really good. But you also have to be like not that good looking. Like you need to be like handsome, but not like handsome, like too handsome. Like, but there was a lot of things. So finally, when we finally got the opportunity to shoot it, it was right after I shot the pilot of my show. So I called my co-director and was like, we have 2 months to shoot this, and if we don't do it now, we're never gonna do it. So we raised the money, thanks to Liv and everybody else. And I found Jeff, his name was Robert Eli, a week before we shot. And I looked everywhere, and I called him on the phone and was like, listen, bro, I can pay you literally no money. I've only seen your reel. I don't have time for an audition, but 2 friends told me that you're the guy. And if you think you're the guy, we shoot on Friday. And he was like, I'm with it. So on Thursday, we had rehearsal, and we showed up, and I'm stressed, like, does this guy suck? And he's the only one that has the whole script highlighted. He's the only one off book, including me. He was the only one that knew all his lines, so he showed up and completely crushed it. And at the very end, on the last day, the whole crew's wrapping up, and I was like, bro, I cannot thank you enough for showing up and basically being the reason this film is good. And he was like, I gotta thank you because this is my first film since beating cancer. I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, it's kind of weird that I came back from not dying and you killed me. But, but yeah, so that's my little story about Robert Eli.
That's great. We crashed 2 Priuses while filming. One was crashed by a mechanic after he took out the airbags for cinematographer safety. He was taking it out for a spin around the block to check the electronics, and he crashed it. And the second one was a stunt driver just rammed into a second Prius. So yeah, that was fun. I want to thank a nice Armenian guy who rented me out those 2 Priuses on Turo. Everything was paid by insurance, but he was a great fellow, I think.
So what I took away from this whole experience and my entire experience working with Jake and his crew, for me, I'm a 57-year-old general contractor from Shaker Heights, and I can remember as a young boy, maybe 9 or 10 years old, my mother taking me to Camrus Theater for acting classes on the weekends, and I can remember sneaking out the back door and just, hanging out in the alley, not really going to class. And at some point, they withdrew me. So I just look at life like this. Anything is possible. Just follow your dreams and believe in yourself. So.
Being the editor and composer, I spent a lot of time just locked away in my basement and had to entertain myself by just stupid things like renaming all of the music files, which I didn't know that the head of our course would then be reading as he went through the audio. So if you ever see our OST on Spotify, there'll be hits like, yo, they got a divorce, and android hottie with a robo body.
I think one of the things that was really funny and kind of scary that happened on set was during the dinner scene, there was my producer who's in the audience, she drew the big painting of the skull in the hand. It actually fell during a take with the actors and chipped a piece of the wall that wasn't our wall. It was part of our school's set. And we had to paint it over before we actually got yelled at because we were threatened not to ruin the set before actually going in on it. And I think the biggest thing we got from it was, we shot like peak COVID, and our shoot got canceled like multiple times. And I think that was probably the most difficult because it really questioned whether or not like we wanted to keep working on the film and like keep going through with it. And I think that determination really came out, I think, from myself and like the rest of the crew, because it just showed like how much we wanted to be filmmakers after we were done, just because we were able to achieve this project after like so many like setbacks. And I think that really like made me personally fall in love with like directing and writing and stuff, if that makes sense.
I'm going to tell you the most surprising thing of all. Haunting the Haunted, a low-light camera test, shot in 6 hours. I've made a bunch of shorts. This is like number 18. They were all much longer, much harder. But Haunting the Haunted somehow has screened on 5 continents. This is Festival 34. I cannot believe it's here. I mean, this is amazing. It has won Best Short Film. It has won Best Horror Show twice. It has won 2 acting awards and 2 audience awards, which means I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I am just as perplexed as every one of you.
I'm going to ask one more question before I let you all go, but this is why I love doing this, because the stories behind the films are often just as good, if not better, than some of the films themselves. So before we let you go, tell us what's next. Projects you're working on, hoping to work on, coming up in the future.
Well, since the beginning of 2020, me and Jake have made like 6 short films now. So we're working on, we made an 80s cop thing that won Fun Mills Festival here in town. And then that got us a free submission to this. And then he made that, and we all worked on it with him, and he had a vision, and now we're gonna do another 80s thing. I'm not gonna disclose much more than that.
I just wrapped on a short film that I shot over the last 6 months, and hoping to have that ready to go next spring. And then I'm actually on Sunday going down to Washington, D.C. for a month to shoot another short film that I'm writing and directing, and I'll do pretty much anything Jake asks me to do.
Got a couple short films, couple sketches on the horizon. We just launched an LLC, Entertainment Media Studios Production LLC, so we're very excited about that, and that's about it.
I'm with Joe. I'll do anything Jake Barcus says to do. He's driving this thing, and I'm riding with him.
Kind of already said what I was doing, but my short's called Love is Like a Dog, and it's essentially about a mother and a daughter, and it is the worst first short film to do ever, because starts in the 80s, then goes to the 90s, and then to the 2000s. So like it's a stupid amount of money for me to be thinking I can do whatever. But really, like, it's about the general idea of death, whether it's the death of a relationship, the death of a parent, and it kind of just follows, like one woman going through this journey in her life.
So I'm the male lead of the show Batwoman on the CW, so we're waiting to see if we have a 4th season right now. I acted in an animated Netflix movie coming out next year. I'm pitching an animated feature in 2 weeks. I'm adapting a Scholastic Kids book into a feature right now. I had an animated short play at this festival that I just finished the live action feature adaptation of that I'm pitching next week. And that's pretty much everything.
Yeah, we have another short that we're going to shoot. It's a heartwarming story about people committing suicide. So yeah, so hopefully we can be here next year. Thank you, Cleveland. Thanks.
So, Jake, you got my email, right? I'll be looking for that script. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to be composing for some Canadian director, indie something. The film's called Hamartia, so.
I'm directing Hamartia. Well, we actually finished. We wrapped. It's in post right now. And yeah, we're probably going to do a couple of other things later on.
Almost finished a pilot script and production bible for sci-fi series. I got a short film. If I ever find the location, I'll shoot it in a heartbeat. I wrote a comedic feature screenplay that won a screenplay contest. And as soon as I rob a bank, you'll be able to see it.
Please join me in thanking our guest filmmakers for being with us. Don't forget to vote. Your ballots are important. We'll hope to see you back tomorrow for the final in-person day of the 46th Cleveland International Film Festival. Have a great night.